Yeah, you'll know if you're in that hyperadrenaline state is you're actually your temps can be quite high, but you feel a little bit fragile. You might be kind of agitated. You usually have sleep issues. You usually have a hard time putting on muscle tissue, even with exercise, and you have a hard time you can have a hard time losing body fat too in that state. Some people are just they could be just too skinny. And they probably usually have some sort of digestive issues, either diarrhea on some level because everything's moving through too fast through them. And so normally those are the people, and they might sometimes feel like they have decent energy during the day because they're running on that. And so when you actually start feeding them properly, they usually get more tired and, they feel sluggish. They could actually get constipation then because now they're not having that fuel of adrenaline push everything through them. So they might, the true state now of what's really going on with their thyroid is going to show up, and it's usually pretty sluggish, right? And these are the same people, and Dr. Pete talks about this, that you'll go into the doctor and you're having all of these hyperadrenaline slight symptoms, and they're going to tell you, well, you're hyperthyroid. You don't need thyroid because you're hyperthyroid. And in a sense, they're actually not. They're actually probably quite low in thyroid. They're hyperadrenaline. And when you fix that and get them back to their natural state, which is low thyroid, they need to do all the things that it's actually going to support thyroid function, not, put them in a hypometabolic or a hyper, state. You actually want to push them back. So, you have to kind of understand your state, because if you're having all these symptoms and you're warm, then that doesn't mean you're healthy. Like temperature is one piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Cause there's some things that can kind of give you a false, sense of that you're hot and that you're warm. And so you also have to take all your symptoms into consideration. And then then that's why you again need to log your food and start seeing what happens as you start increasing food. And if things start going south and they start decreasing, then yes, you were in that hyperadrenaline state, and now your body is basically trying to get more into a relaxed state. But with that, your sleep should start improving. You should start feeling more regulated, but you will feel more tired. And a lot of people, when they start this, feel tired first. And I'm like, you just need to rest. Just rest.
And you're so right. It comes back to that, I think it's just resting the whole picture, but for so many women, it's hard. They're so used to, I've got to do stuff all the time. Like even I find it hard, I have to really force myself and go, Kitty, you need to have another day of training, or you really need to just have a day where you just, do nothing, or veg out, or go to the beach or whatever.
Yeah. It's totally hard when you initially start this, especially if you're coming, like I came from a freaking over exercising, going at 100 miles an hour all the time to, you're telling me I have to rest. I didn't even know what that word meant. I was like, it almost freaked me out, but to get into that place. And I think a lot of women struggle with that, and a lot of men struggle with that. You just got to relax and rest and not work out and allow the body to recover, because you haven't let it recover for 5 years.
Yeah. And you need to give it time too. Like this lady's been in our program for just over 12 months now. And she's nearly 50, and she wrote this post, and she just a bit of a reflection of her journey so far. And she was just saying she's realized now that, she's made some great progress, but it's probably going to take her another year. But when you're 50 and you've been doing something for 30 years, 1 to 2 years is not really an unreasonable time to get back. And it might, like mentally, I think it took her a while to realize that she actually, she was doing all the food right. She was, doing everything right, except that she wasn't actually resting, like truly resting her body.
Yeah. I mean, that can be a very hard component for a lot of people. Right. And so your temp and pulse will give you a lot of feedback. And so in the same thing, if you are trying to exercise and your body isn't ready, and so, you exercise and you take your temp and pulse 20 minutes post your exercise, because initially you're going to be warmer because you've just moved around and created heat. But then if you wait and then your temp and pulse plummet after your workout, then that workout was too much for you, because that's not the result you want from a workout. You don't want it to put you in a hypometabolic state. You don't want it to lower your metabolism, which is basically just what it did. So if that's what's happening, then you either need to do less exercise, less intense exercise. Maybe you need to eat a better post workout meal that might help you as well. but it might just be that you just don't need to work out right now, right? And that's what your body's requesting from you. And so using temp and pulse is such a good feedback system. You don't have to go to a lab. You don't have to go spend a ton of money. It's like, go spend $10 on a a thermometer. You can, the digital ones I use, I mean, they might not be as accurate. I always say use them 2 to 3 times and kind of get the medium, the number. But use the same one throughout the day. I like to use, actually, I don't know if you do this, I like to use an oximeter, those little things you put on your fingers.
I know the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like $12. It's a really good investment. And that way you can just sit there and monitor your heart rate from this little oximeter. You can get them on Amazon for $12. Those are great for being able to keep yourself seeing your numbers. And then you'll see, as obviously you start to progress, what certain meals are doing for you. If you eat a meal and your temp and pulse don't rise, nothing happens, then it could just mean that wasn't enough food for you. And because, depending, and it also could be what was happening prior. I mean, you could just be warm all day at some point, and so you're just going to stay regulated. But, sometimes if things don't happen, then you might need more food, and I've seen people that can have like a kind of increased pulse. Even if they have a high pulse, it can go even higher after eating. And usually it's because they have too much protein and carbohydrates and they're getting an insulinic response. So, I actually explain a lot of all of these, what every number could possibly mean to you in my book, because that's a good reference. But ultimately, it's important for people to know this kind of feedback system so they know how to adjust their meals to help them optimally.
Yeah, and just listening to your body, and I know we always go back to but it's true. It's I think so many women, they just ignore it. They're tired, but they'll still push on, and they'll still go and train, and they'll still not get enough sleep, or they'll go and do more things, and it's it's like sort of at some point you got to rest. You have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely correct. And this is why I like temp and pulse, because it gives you that initial feedback to tell you you've done too much. You need to slow down. This is what are you doing? If you want to get better, here's your information. Now you need to adjust accordingly. And I think people need permission to rest in today's world, because we're told we just need to go, everything's good, everything's mile an hour, and there's nothing to say that you can't work hard and do all those things, but not when you're trying to fix yourself. Like, there's a time and place for everything, and, that's why in your youth, you can do all those things and not really have the repercussions as you do when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. Now you can't do that to yourself. And as you get older, unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit longer to fix yourself. Your body's not as resilient, and so you need to build that resiliency depending on how much damage you've done to yourself. But, all of those things need to be taken into consideration. And like I said, feedback systems with logging and temp and pulse are very, very helpful for people when going through this process.
I think too, because obviously a lot of women that come to us, like, they all want to look better. They want to lose body fat. And it's a real, sometimes but I understand what it's like when you're in that place and you're not happy with your body, and you're so used to doing everything that gets quick results on the scales. And all of a sudden someone's telling you, well, this is probably going to take you 12, 18 months, 2 years. It's sort of a hard pill to swallow. And I think when you start this process, like, really focus on those things, like make that your standard of success, getting the temperature and pulse up, like improving all your subjective measures. And then eventually, once you improve things and you train consistently and get stronger, the fat will slowly come off. But for most women, it's going to happen later. And I think too, you can't compare yourself to anyone else, because everyone has a different journey that they're on, and everyone's done different amounts of damage to their body, and it's got different amounts of stress in their lives, so you can look at one woman and go, oh, why the fuck is she getting those quick results like that, like quicker than me? But she hasn't walked in your path. So, I think it's really important to take your focus off the physical, as in outside looking initially, and focus on these things. and improve them. And eventually, if you be consistent, the fat will come off. It's just, that's going to be secondary. And it's frustrating. Yes, we get it. We get it. We understand, because everyone wants it to happen quickly.
Yeah. Well, and everyone wants to know how do I know if I'm getting better? Because we're all so used to, like, you know, I mean, people actually ask me, like, are you gonna do my measurements? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do your measurements. I'm like, I'm gonna have you pay attention to your temp and pulse. I go, you're gonna know, you know, because right now those might not shift so much on you, but we need a guide to let you know that you're improving. And that's going to help your brain feel better. So this little feedback system, when you're like, oh, look, my temperature is improving. Oh, you know, I kind of feel like I have more energy. Like you do need that feedback for your brain to think that this is okay for you. And so that you can kind of, because if not, you're going to fall back to that, you know, if you start using the scale as that, this is what's going to tell you if you're being successful, then you're going to fail, because that's not going to be a good feedback system for this program for the long haul.
Term.
And maybe eventually it can be like, you can see, you know, that you might be losing pounds or kilograms, but initially you need to focus on these other things, and you're going to make it a lot easier on yourself if you do that.
You also, like I've found too, is when I'm rested, like at the start, when I started to feel better, I don't really know how to articulate this either, is you're just a lot more accepting of yourself and of your body and your journey, rather than going, oh, I look in the mirror and I fucking hate it and I've got to get leaner and I've got to lose body fat. Like it's like when you're feeling better and you rest and you sleep, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool. This can take me some time, but I'm feeling good and I'm sleeping well, you know, so I'm just going to keep chipping away. And it, like, there's one of the ladies that's been in our program. She's not our longest member, but she's been with us over 12 months now. She just wrote this post and said, oh my God, I, you know, went to go shopping for a wedding and to buy a dress. And she's like, usually I haven't bought anything for so long. I'd buy a 16 and now I'm in a size 12. So over 14 months, she's lost 2 dress sizes, but it's been so slow, you know, and it's like, you've just, it will happen. It will. It's just slow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, like I said, you just got to, like always, it's trusting in this process. And you're like, and that's why, again, we get back to Temp Pulse, because it's, we're asking a lot of people to trust, because we're taking you down this path with, you've never been down before. So you're walking with blinders on, and they're like, don't pay attention to these other things that you've always paid attention to. And so you're like, what? So here's some other tools, and use these tools and make this your Bible. And, you know, and when you have that feedback and you have it, then this process is going to be easier. It's going to make more sense to you, because you got to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And you need to understand why this makes more sense than going that other route. Because it will, and it does. And, you know, there's no other diet program out there that will tell you that if you continue it for a year, you're going to be eating more and feeling better in 1 year. Usually you feel more deprived, you have more issues with food, and you're eating less, and you're starving, and your sleep goes, and all of these things start happening. And usually with you, you know, would continue most programs for long periods of time. And so it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. And like I said, utilizing different tools and getting a different mental picture of what you're trying to do, which will shift your beliefs and help you, again, become a stronger, younger, feeling better person within a longer period of time.
And I think too, I've never had anyone leave our because a lot of people will come in and just be like, I can't do it. I can't play the long game. It's, you know, I just need to go back. And we often get emails, and this lady emailed us. She's done our program twice now and pulled out. And she emailed Craig again saying, oh, I need to come back. You know, it's not working. I'm doing all the old things. And it's just like, there just is no other. There is, and
that's okay.
Yeah, there's no other way. Yeah, like it's.
I mean, to me, it's right. We know. I mean, there isn't another way. But if people want to fall out and you want to try back, I think that's your journey. That's your path. There's no right or wrong. That's just what you need to do. And if that's where you're at, then that's what you need to do. You'll eventually come back, because the other way doesn't work. But I mean, you know, you got to do what you feel you need to do. And honestly, if this approach is causing you so much stress and duress that it's making you nuts, then maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you're just not ready for it. And that's okay.
I think though too, like, ask yourself, like, how many more times can you prove to yourself that cutting your calories and doing lots of exercise is not going to get you to your goal? Like, you know, I'd done it so many times and I'd had all the data and all the proof that it didn't work, but I kept going back and back and back until obviously I found this. And yeah, it's frustrating, but what will be more frustrating is if you're 6 months in and you're thinking, oh fuck, this is taking a long time, and you quit and you go back, versus if you continue to take imperfect action and you keep going, you slowly improve. Trust me, in another year's time, you'll look back and go, fuck, I'm so glad I didn't pull the pin. You know, I'm just so glad I kept going, because you'll never be perfect and you'll never do everything perfectly, but it's better that you keep going and take imperfect action and slowly get there, rather than quitting and going back to drastic measures. It just, yeah, it always ends in more pain down the track. We just want to save you from the pain. More pain.
No, but you know what? I mean, everyone has to do what they do. Get your information. True. You decide. I mean, some people need to go. You're like, how many times? Some people need to learn a lot. Like, you know, I learned at 38, 39, right? Took me 10 more years than you, you know? So, but you know, it's just your path. It's not right or wrong. It's just what you need. So, you know, but yeah, I mean, the other way's not going to work.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, awesome. Oh, well, thanks, Kate. I'll let you go. I've got to jump on to another meeting, and maybe I can post a link to that. What did you call it again? The to do the pulse
oximeter.
That's it, oximeter. Yeah. I actually think that we might have one of those sitting around at home somewhere, but I'll put the link in the video below so that people can
yeah, they're very helpful, cheap form of feedback system that you can have. So yes, very helpful.
Okay, cool. All right. Lovely to speak to you as always. And
always a pleasure.
I'll see you next week. Bye.
You got it.
Bye.